So, the AAP01 is undoubtedly a fantastic piece of kit, but is it really the pistol we should be recommending to new players?
Ice in my veins, I've been driving this train. Years in this lane, there's no stopping this flame. Cause I came to the game and I changed it to play how I like, rearranged it to my own domain. Yeah, I got what it takes, made lots of mistakes, taking shots, skipping breaks, feeling lost, feeling great, popping off, singing straight, never stopped, never changed. All the squad here to play and I've got something to say, yeah.
Hey guys, welcome back to the channel where, as I'm sure you've already ascertained, today we are taking a look at the AAP01 from Action Army. This pistol has exploded onto the scene since its arrival, and it's a relatively new thing. It's not had a long lifespan in terms of airsoft thus far, but suffice to say, these things are absolutely everywhere. They've been taken to the heart of the community, and it's a rare game day when you don't see one of these being run somewhere in one guise or another, because it's not always obvious that someone's running an AAP, and we'll go into that a little bit later on as well. But yeah, I, however, have a few reservations about the AAP, certainly when it comes to recommending it to new players. But before we delve too much into that, we'll save that for the end of the video. This is, of course, an overview of the AAP, so let's make our way through the pistol slightly differently today. We won't start off right at the front. I'd actually like to look at the body of the pistol and the composition of what we have here. So this, of course, is a very interesting design. You see shades of perhaps a certain World War II pistol sort of thing. But you also see shades of Glock in this as well. And that's with good reason, because these utilize Glock magazines. So if you have any lying around, perhaps from WE, Tokyo Marui, even Vorsk magazines and stuff like that, Raven and everything, will all fit in these no problem at all. Which is great. No proprietary mags, no extra cost involved. Most airsofters will probably have a Glock in their collection, so it's great to be able to switch the mags in between these things. It gives you a little bit more utility. Now, the body is entirely polymer on this thing. Not unusual with airsoft pistols by any stretch of the imagination, but certainly once you get into the higher end pistols, you do usually find that you get a full metal slide, lots of serrations and fancy gubbins and that kind of thing. Nothing of the kind here. We don't actually even have a slide with this pistol. Because of its design, there is no reciprocating slide. What we have is more of a bolt assembly, which protrudes out of the back. And because it's a bolt, this is essentially a charging handle. And that's what they refer to it as well. This actually aids not only in the way the pistol cycles and the speed that it's able to cycle, but it's a weight-saving exercise as well. This is an extremely light pistol, very agile. You feel certainly on point using this thing. But also, because there is no heavy reciprocation involved, much like a Mark 23, if you imagine the efficiency you get from your average sort of Mark 23, no reciprocation, thus all of the gas is going towards the actual firing of the BB and stuff like that. You tend to get better range, better gas efficiency, stuff like that. This is sort of a halfway house in between, because we do have reciprocation involved here, but it's nowhere near as heavy. You do tend to have better gas efficiency with an AAP, and certainly in cold weather conditions it feels like it's working better as well. Now, I actually really like the design of this thing, not just from a standpoint of its overall silhouette, but it's the added little details in the pistol as well. Certainly around the pistol grip area. If you take a look at the back, we have multiple sort of styles of grip in play here. So we have like a stippled effect on the back of the pistol grip. We have almost like a honeycomb effect on the side, and then we have traditional serrations down on the front of the grip here. And what this adds up to is a very, very grippy pistol grip. No matter the conditions, wet weather, anything like that, fully gloved up, you feel really, really comfortable holding this thing, and you feel really in control of it as well. So now let's make our way through the pistol in the traditional manner, and we'll start off up at the front, where we find a handy little thread protector, which will reveal underneath 14mm counterclockwise threads. So right out of the box, this thing can take tracers, suppressors, anything of that kind. One thing I will say though is, because this is entirely polymer, those threads are polymer as well. So be careful when you're putting on a tracer or a suppressor. Try to keep these things very sort of just finger tight. Don't over tighten them, you will strip the threads on this thing, and that would involve replacing this front assembly as well. It's not going to be happy days by any stretch of the imagination. Moving back, we get a sort of fluted effect on the outer barrel here. Not so much outer barrel as a casing, but no performance gains whatsoever. But yeah, it looks particularly good. The fibre optic sights front and rear are extremely good. If you take a look down the pistol here, you'll see that we have green fibres at the rear and an orange sight at the front. Because they go all of the way through, they actually pick up a hell of a lot of light. Even in low light conditions, it's really, really easy to acquire these sights and sort of line them up properly to acquire your target. Very snappy. Again, it just adds to the feel of the pistol. Moving back along, if we have a look at the trigger, this is very sort of Glock style trigger. We have a trigger safety here, but we also get a cross block style safety as well, where you can push it through and it locks the trigger in place. And if we come to the other side, you might be able to make out a slight orange ring around this side, which just indicates that the weapon is live and ready to fire. Moving back, we have ambidextrous, what I will refer to as bolt release, not a slide release or a slide lock. As I say, completely ambidextrous there. We have an ambidextrous trigger. We have ambidextrous charging handle from either side as well. And although it looks like this is only a right-handed magazine release, you can actually strip the pistol down, swap this to the opposing side so that you lefties can release the magazine in a more traditional fashion as well. So there's a hell of a lot to like about this pistol. In terms of stripping the pistol down, because we're not removing a slide or anything of that nature, what we actually have is like a body release button at the rear here. And this is quite interesting because what actually happens then is, a bit like a traditional rifle, the body then canters and splits open. You can then just wrestle the front off of its sort of ball and pin setup here, and you gain access to all of the necessary gubbins inside, the hammer, etc., and all the trigger assembly. And up at the top here, removal actually gives you access to your hop-up adjustment there. Now it's worth noting as well, it is possible to adjust the hop without taking the pistol apart to this degree. You can actually just pull the bolt to the rear, lock it in place, and if you have particularly nimble and small fingers, you can access the hop-up wheel from the mock ejection port here. I wouldn't say it's the easiest thing to do. Certainly with a gloved finger, you're not necessarily going to have a lot of feel for how much the adjustment is in play. But yeah, it can be done, is worth noting. Now, let's get on to the party piece of this, because essentially why the community has fallen in love with this is because, like a Glock 18, this thing has the capability to go full auto. And in terms of rate of fire, it's actually comparable to your MP9. It's insanely fast, blisteringly so. To access full auto mode, unfortunately, we don't get a switch on the side like you would with a Glock. You have to pull and lock the bolt to the rear, and you'll be able to see that there is a small switch on the underside of this bolt, with one side which is labelled a numerical 1 and one has a capital A, quite obviously for automatic. That allows you to switch between party mode and sensible mode. I would say that while the rate of fire is absolutely blistering, you will sacrifice a certain degree of certainly FPS and accuracy in full auto mode for fairly obvious reasons. Now, there's also another nicety to the AAP01 that the community excels in, and that is in accessorizing this pistol. Out of the box, Action Army sell a hell of a lot of accessories for this thing. You'll see on the top of the pistol here that we actually have threaded holes. Those are for Picatinny rails, optional extras that Action Army sell, allow you to mount optics to the top. You also get the same holes on the underside for another pick rail so that you can have accessories on the bottom, torches, etc., that kind of thing. They also do a brace as well, a fold out, almost very similar to a USWA1 or even an MP9 style folding brace that comes out to one side. A nice little option, especially if you are going to run it in full auto a lot of the time. Being able to steady the weapon will make a hell of a difference. But it doesn't stop there. The community has gone wild with the AAP, and it is possible to get any number of body kits for this thing. I've seen people turn these into mini SMGs to rival an MP9, MP7 style setup, or perhaps more notably something like an SMC9, that kind of thing, where it's a pistol caliber carbine. I've seen people turn these into DMRs, extend the barrels wildly out the front and put kits around them, turn them into a DMR style platform, something to rival the sort of Novrich SSX, I believe it is. Yeah, the sky's the limit, and people have gone crazy, and not just in the sort of private community either. What I'm about to show you here is my personal setup, which has come courtesy of my friends over at SRU Precision. You'll be familiar with them on this channel. I wear a lot of their armor, helmet setups, that kind of thing. But they also do body kits for a lot of guns and conversion kits, being able to convert your weapon to bullpup style setups and something a bit more space age. And what we have here is their AAP01 pdw-k kit. Turns it into essentially a mini Chris Vector, if you like. We have extendable stocks at the rear. You can insert spare magazines in the front as well. And certainly with the use of extended Glock style magazines, you do essentially have a mini MP9 on your hands with Chris Vector-esque styling. I'll be doing a separate review on this particular kit very soon, so keep an eye out for that on the channel. But I just wanted to give you a little taster today of the sort of thing that is possible with your AAP01. So, with all of these positives, you might be asking, why would I be so reluctant to recommend this pistol to a beginner player? Let me give you a story. So I see it a lot on the forums. A new player joins a local airsoft forum, maybe even a national airsoft forum. They've played a couple of games, maybe they even have their Yukara now, and that kind of thing. And they've got a little bit of money to spend, and they want their first bit of kit. And inevitably the question is raised, what pistol would you guys recommend I go and get? And I have to say, usually topping the list of answers right now in the community is the AAP01, for obvious reasons. It's insanely cheap for the sort of pistol that you're getting. £85 is dirt cheap, especially for a fully automatic pistol, something with an MP9 style rate of fire, and something that you can accessorize to this degree and customize to your heart's content. I can see why. I can see why so many people love this thing and recommend it. I have my concerns because of the very glaring, obvious problem with the AAP. And I'm truly surprised that in other airsoft reviews that it doesn't get mentioned. Certainly in videos I've ever seen, it doesn't get mentioned. And that's the reliability issue that plagues the AAP01. Its hammer is essentially made of Swiss cheese. I've heard horror stories. Now, before I dive into this, the disclaimer to this is obviously if you have an AAP and you've been using it for years, well, a year or more now, and it's never gone wrong, it's never put a foot wrong, I apologise for what I'm about to say. But, essentially it's well known in the community that these things fail as readily as kids do on GCSEs these days. I've heard horror stories of these things lasting 6 minutes in a game. That they can fail after 6 shots of coming out of the box. It's a ticking time bomb. It's not so much a matter of if your hammer fails, it's when your hammer fails. So much so that you can go to a couple of, and I'm not going to name and shame or sort of promote them, but you can go to a couple of airsoft websites that sell the AAP, and listed under the recommended purchases as soon as you put an AAP in your basket is obviously BBs and gas, but also a replacement hammer set. Such is the nature of this pistol. And for me, recommending that to a new player, I'd feel bad. I really would. The last thing I want a new player to experience from their first purchase is the gun to fail on the very first day they have it. And that for me is the sole reason I will never recommend the AAP01 to a brand new player. If a brand new player enters the fray and wants a pistol, go for the usual stuff. Go and grab yourself a TM. Something that's going to last. There are hundreds of great pistols out there that have bulletproof reliability. Go and grab one of those and don't worry about it. Pistols don't vary that much that you are going to be missing out on anything. Apart from the full auto, when you tend to go full auto, it is a lot of fun, but maybe an old faithful reliable pistol won't have full auto. That's a shame. But every time you pick it up, it's going to fire, it's going to be reliable, and you're ultimately going to have more fun with it than if it breaks on the very first day. That being said, if you're watching this review as a veteran who still doesn't have one of these, by all means go and grab one. I love it to pieces. It's a lot of fun to use. The community swear by them. You cannot argue with the community census that these things are fantastic, because they are. Hugely customizable. You can turn it into whatever you want it to be. The sky's the limit. Your imagination is the limit with this thing. But like I say, if you're a new player for your first pistol, go and grab something else. Get a little bit more au fait with servicing airsoft equipment and getting to know it and having some fun with the sport. Once you're a little bit more au fait, perhaps you've done some servicing or repairs on some of your kit, go and grab one of these. You'll have a hell of a lot of fun with it. Right, that's been my 2 pennies worth on the AAP01 conundrum. If it's been of any help to you in a future purchase, if it's been of any entertainment to you, then as always, a like and a subscribe is always welcome, guys. And I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.